Okay, we're live. James says hello. This is James Foley, everyone. Extraordinaire.
How's it going, everybody? Should I start talking?
Yeah, why not?
How's it going, everyone? I'm here down at Paperbird Recording Studios, Paperbird HQ in Fremantle. And I'm here to take you through some ways that I make my books. Rather than telling you too much about books that I've got out at the moment, I thought I would actually read you some of my very first stories. So normally when I go and do a school talk and come to see you in a class, I'll actually show you these, but I won't necessarily read them out to you out loud. So I'm going to do that today. The Cat Burglar was one of my first picture books I made in grade 6, and this is one I made in year 7 called Furlock Mouse and the Case of the Missing Cheese, which is a mystery story. So I'm going to read these to you. I'm going to show you how I make some of my books. I'll show you some of my roughs and things like that as well. And I'll talk to you about what I'm working on at the moment as well. Well, what should we do first? Should we read a story?
Yeah.
I'll read you my very first story. This one's super embarrassing. This is from pre-primary. It's called A Book About Me. There we go. A book about me. So this is a self-portrait of me on the front. I was very hairy as a small child, as you can see here, but not on my head. It was attached at one point, and we just grew it really long so that we could do a big comb over, like a really young Donald Trump. That was me. Let's have a look at the inside of the story. So, here it is. This is me. I am a boy. I have hazel eyes and brown hair, and then I drew this. 3 eyeballs. Hair is floating off the top of my head. No body to speak of. I'm just a levitating head floating in space. And this page, this is my family. I have brothers and sisters. Now, I had one brother at that point, and my sister was being, developed in my mummy's tummy at that time. So this should have said I have one brother and I have like 3/4 of a sister, but I left them out of my book, and I don't know why I did that. I think maybe it was because it says it's a book about me. It's not about them. I don't know why. Maybe I was just being a bit of a little terrible toddler. I live in a house. I live at East Fremantle. That's my house. It's on purple fire, as you can see. The yellow outlines underneath show all the details of the house, though. You can see we have a front door, massive doorknob. We've got a window, a squished window, the roof, and 2 legs. So Meg McKinley, I thought of it before you. Walking houses. This is from 1987. You stole my idea. And this is my hand, and this is my foot. Look, this was Bubba, 5-year-old James. My hand is quite a bit bigger now. And this is the last page. This is my favourite toy, Thunder Punch He-Man. He had a button in his back, and you could make him punch like this. So you could put him in front of a little cereal packet, he'd punch it off a table. Or you could put him in front of a little other toy, punch him away. Or you could sneak up on your brother and punch him in the back of the head. So that was quite fun as a toy. That's my first book. So that was quite an amazing thing for my parents to hold on to. I'm really glad that they did, because then I can go, you know what, that's where my drawing started, and that's the most recent book that I've got out, so that's what I can draw like now. So that's 1987, 2009, 10, 2020. That's, how many years is that?
You've asked me to do some maths now.
13, 23, 24 years? So that's a long time. A long time to practice something. No, it's even longer than that. We're not here for a maths class anyway, we're here for books. So
Yay.
if you know the answer to that maths problem, chime in on Instagram. This is from grade 6, so we're fast forwarding a little bit here. This is called The Cat Burglar. Can we zoom in on this, Jen? That's supposed to be a hat. It looks like a stripy butt. It's definitely supposed to be a hat. And there's a little cat hiding in this tree too. So the idea for this story was that what if you thought there was a cat burglar in your house, but it was only just a cat? And oh my goodness, look at that. That's me in grade 6. That's me in grade 6.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't it adorable? Look at his Lego man haircut.
Cute.
Lego man haircut, amazing. Okay, so this book is dedicated to my family, Mum, Dad, David and Mary Ann. The Cat Burglar by James Foley. Okay. This is not actually that good. So just drop your expectations way down low and we'll have a read. One night my family was burgled. Tippy-toe, 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 munch, munch, munch. Did you hear something? Mum whispered to Dad. Let's turn the page. Mum and Dad are not even in this picture. Mum and Dad are somewhere else and they're listening. But we can see what's making the noises. It's a cat in the kitchen. I love showing this to pre-primary kids because they freak out and they go, "Why is your mum a cat? And why is your dad a chicken drumstick?" I'm like, "No, my mum and dad are somewhere else." "In the toilet?" "Yeah, maybe in the toilet. Who cares? They're somewhere else." Clang! A pot fell off the kitchen bench onto the floor. So the cat has made a massive noise. And now everyone in the house is going to freak out. And think about it. In your house, who would be the first one to wake up and freak out? Would it be your mum? Would it be your dad? Would it be you? Who would be brave enough to go out and check on everything? Would it be your weird Uncle Bob? Would it be your goldfish, Jeff? Let's have a look. In my book, it was my dad. This is my dad. Dad jumped out of bed and shouted, "Arr!" And then I write, "Arr!" again, just to hammer the point home. That's my dad. His hair is growing out of his eyeballs. I love this story. It's wonderful. Soon he calmed down and rang the police. He grabbed my baseball bat and with the family tiptoed down the creaking stairs ready for action. So here we are creeping down the stairs. And that's actually based on my real family. That's my dad and my mum and me and my brother and my sister. And you can just make out these pictures on the wall. They both say Rottnest 93, which is where we went for our school camp in grade 6. And this one has got someone falling off their bike. And this one has got someone getting swept out to sea. So my very dark sense of humour was already there from a young age. We heard a loud siren wailing outside. The police were here! Hooray, they're here, they're here! They surrounded the house and the chief inspector shouted through his megaphone, "Come up with your hands up!" This is amazing. To try and make it look like nighttime, what I did was I coloured it all in normal colours and then I got a black coloured pencil and then just scribbled over the top of everything. It's not the best technique, but it kind of works. Meow! Meow! The burglar whined. The cat had climbed in through an open window and was eating leftovers. I really wish that I had decided that the cat leaps out of the window and clamps onto the police chief's head and he can't get it off. I think that would have been funny. And then if he was allergic to cats as well and he came up in like mumps and stuff, that would be hilarious. "I'm very sorry," Dad apologised. "It'll never happen again." "I shall think not. Good night," the chief inspector replied. I was not great at drawing hands. But I get that. You can see on the front here, this guy's supposed to be holding the top of his loot bag and he's got no thumb. He's just got 5 fingers. So I'm doing that a lot in here. I haven't been paying attention to thumbs. The next night, Mum whispered to Dad, "Did you hear something?" Uh-oh. This time it's not a cat. This time it's an actual cat burglar. Who looks a bit like my dad, to be honest. But it's not. Clang! A pot fell onto the kitchen floor. He's getting away. But is anyone going to get up and check what's going on this night? I'm not sure. Dad jumped out of bed and shouted, "Not again! That window's been opened again, right?" And then, the next day we couldn't find the TV. "Quick, get some water, Dad's fainted." And then that's the end. There's the burglar in his house and the TV doesn't even work. And he's got a picture of his mum on the wall and she's a burglar too. That's the end of my book. That's my book. So that was the first time I made a proper picture book in grade 6 and I was very proud of that. I really enjoyed the process. I'd always loved reading books, but that was the first time I sort of felt like I could make one. And so we all entered our books into a competition, a statewide competition called the Make Your Own Storybook Competition. And guess who won a prize? Not me! I got one of these amazing certificates of participation, which I got to write my own name on. Fantastic. But the year after that, in grade 7, we all tried making a book again. And those of you who have heard me speak at your school or library or whatever, you know this story perhaps. This book's called Furlock Mess and the Case of the Missing Cheese. This is the one that I made in grade 7. And this one I got a little better at drawing and I thought the story was a little bit better. This time I don't have a photo of myself, I have a drawing of myself, a self-portrait of myself in the front. With all my favourite activities. I love playing on the computer and playing basketball. And what else do I have there? Oh, and I was learning piano as well at the time. Actually, I studied piano up until grade 12. I studied jazz piano. It was lots of fun. Okay, Fur Like Mouse and the Case of the Missing Cheese. This is our title page. I loved playing around with different typefaces and making up different typefaces. Still do. The start of the story is really funny. Not in a really ha-ha way, but I'll tell you what's going on. It was a dark night in England at 221C Baker Street. Furlock Mouse and his faithful assistant, Swatson, were reading by the fireplace. There's a little tiny door down by the dustbin. Now, I wanted to start it at night time with the lamplight casting its glow over everything to make it really moody. And then I realised that on the next page, a couple of pages on, all of a sudden it was daytime. And I went, I started the story at night time. So that first page is at daytime, and then all of a sudden it just says in the morning on the next page. There was no point in starting it at night time at all. We just switched completely. But that's why we do drafts, and I did not do a draft when I made this book, and I should have done a draft. I made up some silly book titles, Pirates by Vern Min, and there's like a Where's Wally by Martin Mousefoot as well. So I was dad joking well before I was able to be a dad. In the morning, bring, 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 the telephone rang. Furlock Mouse, may I help you? Yes, this is Cheeses R Us, owner of the England Mini Cheese Factory. Last night we were robbed. Can you help me? Of course I can. My assistant and I will be right over, replied Furlock. So here's what's going on. I've connected their phone lines in the middle of the page there, so we can see that they're connected. And it's an old-timey sort of phone. And so Swatson is a fly. He's a blowfly, and Furlock is, of course, a mouse.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
There's been some comments about moose and goose and frogs. Moose, goose, frog. I don't know.
What?
Picking up things in your pictures, I think.
Oh right, is there a moose?
I don't know.
Well, it could have been called Furlock Moose, I suppose.
Oh,
That
next
would
one's
interesting.
spotty chicken. Maybe they want you to draw these things.
You want me to draw it? I'll get to that. When they arrived, Cheeses R Us greeted them outside. You're here at last, come in! They followed the chubby owner through the massive iron gates of the factory, down passages, upstairs, through doors, up more stairs, then finally they got to the cold storage warehouse. It was completely empty. I was really into drawing big, cartoony
Well, there you go. It's an empty supermarket.
expressions. Yeah, exactly right. And there was no toilet paper either. Oh, the hand sanitizer was gone. My goodness. Swatson and Furlock Mouse looked for clues. After much silence, Swatson shouted, Furlock! Cheeses and Furlock walked over to Swatson, who pointed to the door they had come through. There's something behind the door, Swatson said excitedly. It appeared to be a fob watch. Furlock picked it up and read the writing engraved on the back. It said, Sir K. Catnip, 118 Westminster Road, England. Isn't that handy that the bad guy leaves his name and address at the crime scene? That's so convenient. Jesus, call the police. Tell them to meet Swatson and I at 118 Westminster Road and to bring the police dogs, instructed Furlock Mouse. I really like this. There's a lot of buttons on that. And actually, there's some things that you learn as an illustrator, some really weird little things that you don't notice necessarily as a kid or as a grown-up. These buttons are on the wrong side of the coat. These buttons show that that's a woman's coat. And I think Furlock is supposed to be a boy in this one. It doesn't have to be. It could be a gender-swapped Sherlock Holmes. In fact, maybe it should be. If it's a female coat, then that means Furlock is probably a girl. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. When they got there, they were surprised to find that the address was that of a rubbish dump. They searched everywhere and could not find a single trace of Sir Catnip. When it started to get windy and a pile of rubbish blew over, underneath was a staircase. Let's go down, shouted Furlock. This was me running out of time to get my book done in time, so instead of drawing the characters, I just drew the most simple thing I could for every page. At the bottom of the staircase was an enormous cave with stalactites on the ceiling and stalagmites on the ground, because if you found stalactites on the ground and stalagmites on the ceiling, that would not be grammatically correct. The cave was honeycombed with tunnels that looked like faces ready to swallow you. It's that one, Furlock told the police officers. They hurried down the gloomy tunnel into the darkness. This is me copying my favourite movie as a kid, which was The Goonies. where they climb through a massive skull that's formed in the tunnels underneath their town. Has anyone seen The Goonies? It's really, really, really good. I still love it. I tried to get my wife into it, but it's not something you can watch as an adult and get into. You have to watch it as a kid.
Maybe it's a good lockdown
I'll
movie.
force her to watch it again. At the end of the tunnel was a stone wall. "A dead end!" shouted a disappointed police officer. "No, it isn't," Fellock replied. "It's one of those swinging walls you see in the phony mystery movies. If you lean against it, it swings round." "Ah!" screamed Fellock Mouse as he was flung into the evil Sir Catnip's hideout. Look at these ridiculous expressions I was drawing. I really love just going totally cartoony crazy with these. And then as Furlock is flung through the tiny mouse towards this Sir Catnip and his goons here.
So other than the goons, who are the other inspiration behind all the drawings?
I learned how to draw characters by copying Simpsons characters. So I had all these big goggly eyes on my characters for ages. So just the Simpsons style was a big influence on these. But also the Looney Tunes cartoons. Like all this stuff is Looney Tunes cartoons. You know, I was watching those all the time as a kid. And, you know, more modern ones at the time, like Animaniacs and Ren and Stimpy and all those ones too. "Glad you could join us, Furlock Mouse," cackled Sir Catnip as his thugs picked up the detective. "So you found my fob watch, eh? I couldn't find it. You almost foiled my plan to starve all the mice in England and collect them for my winter meals. But it doesn't matter. You're not going to tell the police this time." Out of the corner of his eye, Furlock Mouse could see the police approaching Sir Catnip. "You're under arrest, Sir Catnip," shouted the police chief. "Wah, ha, 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 you can't tell me what to do. You're only a measly little mouse. Good one, Furlock. Now I have you and the police." And then clunk, Sir Catnip and his thugs fainted at the sight of the police dogs. After Cheeses R Us got his cheese back and Sir Catnip was safely behind bars, Furlock, Mouse and Swatson went home and finished their reading. Swatson looked up from his book and said, "Furlock?" "Yes, Swatson." "How did you know which tunnel to go through to get to Sir Catnip's hideout?" "Oh, I could smell that tasty cheese a mile away." "Extraordinary." "Ah, elementary, my dear Swatson." And that's the end. That was the end.
Woohoo!
It's such a silly story, but I had so much fun making that. And we entered our books into the competition again, into the statewide Make Your Own Storybook competition, run by the Children's Book Council of WA. And this time, someone in my class got first prize. And it was not me! It was a girl called Naomi LaRoche. But then a girl in my class got second prize too, Carolina Sabinets. And then someone else in my class got third prize. And that was me.
Yay!
And this is my certificate that I got that book week. Prize winning entry, James Foley, third prize. It was 1994, a long time ago, when the whole world was in black and white and we rode dinosaurs to school, long time. I had lots and lots of fun making these books. And so that was what basically gave me the bug. I'd always liked making stories before that, but then getting a bit of recognition, getting a little award, it sort of made me go, you know what, maybe I could actually do this for real one day. But I never imagined it would be a full-time job, and I never imagined that I would be doing it now. And sitting here in a bookshop talking to you about how we make books. Let's talk about how we make books. I've got something here. This is a dummy book. Now, a dummy book is not written by a dummy. It's not illustrated by a dummy. It's not to be read to a group of dummies. A dummy book is a rough of a book. It's a draft of a book. This is the draft for a comic book that I made called Brobot. And this has got 102 pages in it. All these pages are very rough and scribbly. And they've got notes and changes drawn all over them too. This is what the draft of a story looks like before I do a full version. So, this actually took me about a week to make. I'd written the story over a long period of time. It actually took me about 4 years on and off to write the story because it never sort of clicked into place. I wasn't very good at writing stories. I hadn't figured out how to do that well. And I kept trying to make it a picture book, and it didn't want to be a picture book in the end. It wanted to be a comic book. And it wasn't until I started drafting it up as a comic book that everything fell into place. And that happens sometimes with ideas and with stories. Sometimes there's just something missing. And then once that thing, you find it and it clicks into place, everything just flows really easy after that, more or less. So anyway, this is the draft, and you can actually stretch the whole thing out. And then the reason we make one of these is so we can plan out the whole story and also so we can test out what it will feel like to have the final book in our hands. So that's the final book. It's the same size as the draft. And so I'm making those. I don't make them anymore. I make like digital versions of these instead, which speeds up my process a little bit. So what I've done with Sally and her friends is I've made 3 books so far. I've made Robots. and I've made Dungzilla, and I've made Gastronauts. And so Sally's an inventor, and she's got a baby brother called Joe who always gets in the way and mucks things around and destroys things. In the first one, she decides to replace baby Joe with a giant robot brother who's called Brobot. In this one, we introduce Sally's friend Charlie, who's a biologist, and Sally's nan, who's called Rosie. And Charlie has a pet dung beetle that accidentally gets zapped with a growth ray, and it becomes a giant dung beetle. I'll show you my favourite page. This one was heaps fun to draw. Oh, this is one of my favourite pages. This is when the dung beetle starts growing really big. They've accidentally zapped it, and then it bursts through the roof of the lab and whomps down on the ground, and then it flies away. And by the time they catch up with it, it's already gone and done something that dung beetles do. And some of you may already know this. Dung beetles eat dung, which is poo, and they roll it into balls. And this dung beetle has rolled an enormous ball of dung, and it's rolling it back towards their town. They have to find it and stop it and destroy the dung ball and shrink back the dung beetle before it squishes the town in poop. That was heaps of fun. And this one is Charlie and Sally shrink themselves down in a tiny submarine and go inside the human body. And they're inside baby Joe's body because he has swallowed a tiny invention that belongs to Sally, and they have to stop that invention from giving Joe some superpowers. So I'm working on book 4 at the moment, and book 4 is called Chickensaurus. And Chickensaurus is about Sally's nemesis, whose name is Dexter Maelstrom. And Dexter is an inventor too, and he has invented a way to turn chickens into dinosaurs, because chickens are related to dinosaurs. All birds are actually modern living dinosaurs in terms of evolution. Millions of years passed and they shrank down and then turned into little tiny birds that we have now. So I'm going to show you one of those. I'm going to show you the tiny Velocirooster chicks, and maybe you can draw along with me if you like. What we're going to do, it's a bit tricky, so I might... I'll draw a little bit and then I'll turn around and show you what I've done. So the Velocirooster chick, what you've got to do is start off with... No, I should be able to actually draw it upside down, I reckon. Start off with an eyeball in the middle of the page. And I'm going to put like a cat eye pupil, one of these long eyes like this. Let's put the beak on the front. So what we're going to do is going to draw a hooked beak like this. And then we're going to draw a zigzaggy line through the middle of the beak to show where its jagged, crooked beak teeth are. And now we're going to, we're not going to draw a solid line for the body. We're going to draw little dashed lines like this. This makes something look fluffy when you draw it like this.
Sammy says, all birds are dinosaurs?
All birds are modern living dinosaurs. So if you have a pet budgie, you have a pet dinosaur. If you have got roast chicken for dinner tonight, you're eating roast dinosaur. If you get pooped on by a seagull, you got pooped on by a dinosaur. It is true. It is true. Okay, so what I did is I took like a little chick and then I turned it into this sort of weird version. I'm giving it a couple of like ridges on its back like this. And then I'm going to give it a tail. So this is my design for a Velocirooster. We're going to put a line underneath the back there, and then we're going to put 5 ridges down its back as well. We can put some lines along the bottom there, like on like a crocodile's belly, when it's got sort of the lighter belly on the bottom. Okay, we've got to give it an angry eyebrow. And now we're going to give it feet. I'm going to give it Velocirooster feet. So instead of like nice chicken feet, we're normally like, I'll draw like a normal chick.
Sammy says, that's so funny.
Here's like a normal chick. Oh, I forgot its wing. It needs a wing. That's like a normal chick. Oh, it needs a few more lines. Alright, and this one's going to have Velocirooster feet. So let's put one leg down here, and then we're going to have long, sharp claws like this. 3 of them, and then one pointing backwards. And then a couple of lines up there. And the same on this side. One big claw in the middle, and then 2 more claws, and then another claw going backwards. So these guys are going to be in the next book, Chickensaurus, with Sally Tinker. And one of them's not so bad, like it could bite you and really hurt you, but imagine a whole flock of these. Imagine a whole swarm of them chasing you through a hedge maze. And that's one of the scenes that happens in the book. A whole wave of these little velociroosters come burning down the aisles of the hedge maze, and they've got to get away from them. But there's also going to be a Triferatops and an Eggosaurus and a Chickensaurus Rex in the book. So that's going to be out in October, of course, unless of course all the printing houses close down, but we'll hopefully have it out later this year, October 1st. We've got like a couple more minutes. Does anyone want me to draw anything? Were there any requests on the chat line for anything for me to draw?
Well, there was a frog and a spotty chicken.
A frog and a spotty chicken. What about a frog chicken? A frickin'. Should we draw a frickin'? A frog chicken? Okay, so which parts of the chicken and which parts of the frog should we use? I think we should use the long legs of the frog and parts of the body of the chicken. Okay, so let's start with let's put the head of the chicken, and then we'll put the part of the body of the chicken, but now we're going to have the legs of the frog. Oh, this is going to look so weird.
And we're going to have these drawings up on our website to download and print off, and you guys can continue drawing with some of these sketches and colour them in and show us what you come up with. Send them in to us at our email address, hello@paperbird.com.au.
I've got to have a long tongue sticking out here too, and it's catching a fly.
And maybe people can let us know if they have ideas of who else we should invite to come on to this live Paperbird Home Club live streaming stuff that we're doing at the moment.
It was a spotty chicken, wasn't it? Let's add a couple of spots.
Yeah.
Let's add a couple of spots. So, if you're not into graphic novels, I got to illustrate a bunch of other books too. I got to illustrate the Toffel Towers series. So there's one here. Toffel Towers, The Great River Race. This is book 2. It's all about a boy called Chegwin who inherits a hotel, and he has to become the hotel manager. He's 10 years old. And it's really funny and silly. Written by Tim Harris. And I got to
turn the camera around on myself. Hey everybody.
And I got to illustrate some picture books about Vikings too. This one's called The Last Viking, and it had a sequel called The Last Viking Returns. And I also got to illustrate a book about a zombie pet rabbit called My Dead Bunny. If you're into spooky, funny stories, and that's a great picture book you might enjoy, you can check out my website at www.jamesfoley.com.au, and if you go to the teacher page, there's some activities and stuff on there that are mostly designed for teachers in classrooms, but you can totally download them. There's colouring in sheets and all sorts of stuff like that. You can check out my YouTube and my Instagram and all that sort of stuff. There's links on my website, or you can go to James Foley at James Foley Books on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and you'll find all my stuff there too. And please, 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 no matter what you're doing out there, wash your hands. Wash your hands. It is super important, and do social distancing. It's the only way we can stop the spread of everything and slow it down. We need to wash our hands. We need to take care of ourselves so that we can take care of everybody else. It's super important. So, thanks for watching Paperbird Home Club episode number 2. Thanks so much, everybody.
And
stay
tomorrow,
safe.
episode number 3, we have Bryony Stewart coming in.
Bryony's fantastic. You'll have a great time with Bryony.
All right. See you, James.
See you later, everyone.
Bye.